I was hoping I'd think of something intelligent to say this morning. I'm just going to open with that. I was hoping for that. So now you know, because you've probably heard it said before, in the church, when we talk about hope, we talk about it being a certainty. Get it? I am definitely going to say, no, okay. So let's just get that out of the way right away. You can hope that your favorite team wins the game. You can say that all you want. You can say, I hope that it stops snowing because I have to go somewhere this afternoon. You can hope that the weather's nice during the winter. You can hope that the play goes well. Okay, that actually was a certainty. Never mind. Leave that one out. You can hope all sorts of things. Like we say that word and say hope, but really what you mean, I'm optimistic. That's what you mean. I'm optimistic that it could happen. It's not definitely going to happen that way. But I'm hoping that we got to come up with some other way of saying that. I'm optimistic. I would really like it if. I wish that. There are other ways we could say that. Because it's one of those things. It's one of those things where we use a word in church and we mean something different than it means in the real world. And we got those two things happening. So let's figure out a way for it not to be like that. Let's figure out a way for us to understand hope in a way that we can use it all the time, not just in church. Because that is one of the things that we sometimes do, right? We say things differently. We set things apart. The church is somewhere set apart. It's different. Like it's not part of the real world somehow. Oh, yes, it is. Look at Advent. Look at Advent, for example. It's the time of anticipation and preparation for Christmas. We have 4 Sundays. We call them Hope, Peace, Joy, and Love. Or you can go to Superstore and get yourself an Advent calendar that probably has Lego characters on it, or somebody else, princesses from Disney, and you open the door each day and you get a chocolate. Which one do you like? I know which one I like. It's the season of Christmas parties, office parties. In fact, that probably started back in November sometime because everybody does it now. And so since you have to book somewhere and everybody does it, you have to start them earlier. So the party season actually starts much earlier. If, say, you happen to be in a show that ended last night, it started yesterday. But still, it starts much sooner. There's that. How many people have started Christmas baking? Do you have your decorations up? Who's got a tree up at least? I don't even want to talk about your place. It's embarrassing, Ben. He's got so many inflatables on his front lawn. I'll just clarify that. They're like Santa and Christmas characters and a train and things.
It started small, then
inflate. Oh, don't. Just don't. But how is that not preparation for Christmas? How are you not? How can you possibly say that's not preparing for Christmas? It is preparing for Christmas. So why would we say that the church part's different? Well, it's because you're preparing spiritually, and it's because you're setting time apart to examine, do some self-examination and prepare yourself spiritually for the arrival of Jesus. And I mean this absolutely sincerely. Anybody who bakes and loves it will tell you that there's something almost spiritual about doing it. It's true. And when you're putting up your Christmas decorations, are you in fact putting up your Christmas decorations this early because you really hate Christmas and hope it's over tomorrow? Or because you really love it? And you're probably competing with your neighbors to see how many ridiculous decorations you can put on your front lawn, Ben. Or is it because you love it? Is it because what you're actually after is the joy on your children's faces when they see all this stuff? Especially at night when it's all lit up and inflated and all that stuff. How is that not preparing for Christmas? And when you go to your parties, you're celebrating something, right? The reason for having it is to celebrate something. You don't just go to a party because you're obligated to and you really hate everyone else's. And okay, some people do that. but you go because you enjoy the company of others and you're celebrating something. How has that not got a spiritual element to it? Christmas is coming. We're preparing in all sorts of different ways. This doesn't have to be a different one. It needs to be part of all of those other things. I think that's actually why we went to the whole hope, peace, joy, and love thing, that each Sunday in Advent has a theme. Is because just saying, and by the way, I don't know if you've seen this, but a few years ago there's been a big move to make Advent longer, to make it 6 or 8 weeks instead of just 4. Because apparently we need to prepare more. Or maybe it's just that we can't fit everything into those 4 weeks, so we have to move back, like the Christmas parties. It's got to be connected. It just has to be. There's something special, and here's just let me say though, when you're preparing for Christmas, and we do this in the church all the time too, right? It's over on Christmas Day. Thank goodness, we can all go home now. Some people even take their decorations down the next day, right? After all, it's called Boxing Day, put the damn stuff in a box. Don't do that. There's 12 days of Christmas, damn it. I'm getting every one. And by the way, coincidentally, those 12 days of Christmas, like in the song, that takes you to Epiphany. That's why there's 12 of them, those days. It's a church thing. So how about we stop saying, let's set the church stuff apart and let's connect it to stuff? How about we start saying, when we talk about hope on the first Sunday of Advent, we're not just talking about how I hope I survive Christmas, or I hope that the parties go well. I hope people love my decorations. I hope I have more decorations than anyone else on my block. There's something more there. There's something more. See, I don't think you can, first of all, I don't think you can quantify hope. You can't, because it's something bigger than that. It's something deeper than that. It also doesn't have a time frame. The days are surely coming. They surely are. Could be Tuesday. Could be a week from Tuesday. It could be years from now. It could be. That's not the point. The point is it's coming. The days are surely coming, says the Lord. Here's the thing, too. Jeremiah, right? Jeremiah lived in the era of Judah being defeated, of the Israelites being defeated and occupied, not by the Romans, by the Assyrians and then the Babylonians. The period of the exile, when some people from Jerusalem were sent off to Babylon to live. And then they came back. It's the same era that the book of Isaiah covers. And just like the book of Isaiah, it starts out with judgment, and then it moves to hope. So by the time we get to this part of Jeremiah where he's saying, the days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I'll make things better. Things will be better. It's obviously in the hope section. Unless you're Babylonian. But it's in the hope section. The days are coming. For sure they are. And here we are interpreting that as meaning something different. We interpret the righteous branch of David as being Jesus. The new covenant with Jesus. See, already, hope doesn't have a specific destination, does it? To the Jews in Jeremiah's time, it meant something different. To us, it now means something different. Because hope isn't about that specific thing. See, I think hope is something that's already in us because we're created in the image of God. I know, you've heard me say this so many times, you're sick of hearing me say it. But because you are, it's already there. The question isn't, do you have hope? Yes, you do. The question is, how do you live it out? How do you access it? How do you make it happen? We can't make it happen. It just kind of is there, and it will. But there's different ways, isn't there? There's different ways to, and I'm not a professional counselor, and I'm not a professional motivational speaker. But right away, I bet you're thinking those are two ways. Right? Christmas is coming. People are starting to celebrate. It's a happy time for lots of people. We've got Christmas decorations. We've got all sorts of celebration going on. People are running around crazy trying to make it the best Christmas ever because it's that wonderful time of the year. I just quoted a Christmas song, didn't I? And for those people, it is. It's a time to celebrate. But there's lots of people for whom it isn't. There's lots of people who will prepare for Christmas by figuring out how they're going to struggle and make their way through. Because times of celebration, times of family, and times of getting together, times that we're always happy, for some people aren't now because there's someone or something missing. How do we bring them hope? Well, again, the hope is in you. How do we get them to access it? And see, there's the thing. I can tell you, I can stand here at the front of the church and I can tell you from the front of the church that you should have hope. I've told this story lots of times in the past too, but you may remember my story about when I was growing up in Toronto, and I lived in the far East End, but I sang in a choir downtown, and every time you drove over the Don Valley Parkway, there was a ramp over the Don Valley Parkway to get to downtown, this sign would magically appear over the side here that says, "Christ is coming, call Jim," and a phone number. And it was there all the time, not just in Advent, but it was there all the time. If you called that phone number, it actually was a sign on top of an evangelical church that was underneath the overpass. And they're just getting your attention because Christ is coming. Christ is always coming. Christ is always also here, because that's the quirky thing about Christmas. You don't just celebrate the event this year that comes on the 25th of December. It actually also commemorates something that happened a very long time ago. It's in this moment, and it also reminds you, as Jesus said in Luke and in various other places, I'm coming back. The question is how you interpret that. And the descriptions that Jesus gives are often very frightening. That's the end times. The end is near. There's going to be wars, and nations will rise up against nation, right? We just heard this. Didn't we just hear this? Yes, we did, because it's the time of the year we always hear this. Nations will rise up against nation. There'll be earthquakes and famines and floods, right? This is Trump's America after all. So all those things are going to happen. Because it sounds like stuff that's happening, doesn't it? It's happening right now. It sounds like stuff that was happening centuries ago. It sounds like stuff that's going to be happening in the future too, right? It's almost like it's always happening. So, are you preparing for something that's in the distant future, or are you preparing for something that's now? Are you prepared to see Jesus in the person sitting next to you, or are you waiting for a big grand entrance? Are you ready? Wouldn't it be really cool if I could go, "Here's Jesus!" and he was right at the door? You'd be shocked, wouldn't you? I totally should have set that up, Damien. I could have had you come in. I know, you've played Jesus before. It could have been you. Yeah. It's that we're all Jesus and we're not playing, right? We're not playing a character. Again, that's the thing, is that this is in you. It's not about me telling you, you will have hope. Damn it, because I said so, and because Jesus says so, and because Jeremiah says so, all these people in the Bible say so, the Bible says so, so you darn well will. You already do. It's not about that. It's about how do we get there? How do we bring it out? How do we live it? Well, there's the thing right there. You have to live it. See, when you experience hope, you need to share that story. When you experience it, you need to share it with others. And that story can be a story of being inspired, right? The motivational speaker part. You've been inspired. You may also, if you're like me and you follow that, what's it? Is it Love Matters on Facebook with the pictures and the stories? It started out as a picture and a little story, and now there's a book version, and the stories are longer. But they're all stories about people experiencing acts of love and kindness that have inspired them to hope. There was one I was reading just the other day that I wish now I brought the book so I could read it. But it was a story about a woman who was a chiropractor, and she did a lot of work, volunteer work, and there was somebody who, he'd lived on the street for a very long time, and he walked very much bent over. And he came in one day, and she helped him, and he wanted to pay. So he was going to come back. He was going to find a way to make some money. He was going to come back and pay. She said, "No, don't do that. And by the way, come back next week." And so he does, but he wants to really do something to help her. He wants to pay for it, and she's like, "No, it's okay. It's okay." And he starts out very much bent over. And after the first couple of times he's been there, it turns out he's like 6'4". He's enormous. But he spent all his life bent over. Somebody showed him some kindness, and suddenly he can stand up. Suddenly he's looking for work. He feels better about himself. He feels better. He's inspired. He goes and finds a job. Because he can now. Because somebody helped him. It's a great story. Did you catch that part about how suddenly he was able to stand up straight and look up? Because that's what Jesus says when the end is near. Don't worry. Stand up. Look up. Your redemption is near. It's an image that we often skip right on by in that story. But it's a powerful image. You're inspired by hope of what the new beginning. Your redemption is near. It's not about the end. These stories never are. The ones that we always talk about as being stories of the end times, they're not. They're stories of the beginning. We should be talking not about those people with the signs that say the end is near. We should tell them they should change their sign. The beginning is near. It's not the end. It's the beginning. And that's the hope part. As long as you think the end is near, and you're not focusing on the beginning, it's hard to find the hope. It's hard to connect with the hope, because the hope comes from new beginnings. Funny thing about that story from Luke, though, is that it includes, of course, the line about how all this will be accomplished before this generation ends. In other words, Jesus is coming back now. Ta-da! Excellent timing. Yeah. Yeah, here's Jesus saying basically this is all going to happen within one generation. And people really liked that, of course, because then when Jesus was gone, hey, it's okay, he's coming back. Even if you read the letters of Paul, It's funny how it kind of starts out. You could see he's leaning to the Jesus is near. Jesus, he's come back, he's come back. But then, of course, as generations pass, you kind of realize, that, well, maybe he meant something different. Yeah, he meant something different. Unless, of course, you believe that Jesus is in all of us, and he never left, in which case, that's absolutely right. Hope in the beginning, not the end. Lots of people have very inspiring stories to share, and you should share those stories. Lots of people have stories that are not so much inspiring as empathetic. And sometimes that's the best bringer of hope, isn't about how can I inspire you to be better? How can I inspire you to look up? How can I inspire you to want to like get up and do stuff? How can I inspire you to joy? That, by the way, as you'll discover in a couple of weeks, is also something that's already in you and it never leaves. But still, how do I inspire you to joy? That's not the point. That has nothing to do with hope. Hope is about simply understanding that there will be a time when the grief will lift. It will never be gone, but it will lift. You'll understand it. There'll be a time, because the days are surely coming, says the Lord. So it's not always about simply trying to cheer people up. Sometimes it's about simply sharing in their story. Sometimes it's about letting them tell their story.